Hello, Internet. I'm HamsterBomb.
I'm Zach.
And this is HITBOX, the gaming podcast where we talk about video games and hot topics in the industry. And you know what? That's really what we're going to be doing today, because we normally aren't relevant at all on this channel, but today we have I guess a timely topic, or at least something has come up in the industry that makes us want to talk about this. And this topic today is video game subscriptions.
Yep.
Just the nature of how video games have gone. If you've gone through the episodes of HITBOX where we do like the video games through the years series, this is something you would never even think of, even in the newest one we've done in 2001. You know, like we have the GameCube, we have the PS2. We're not thinking about video game subscriptions.
Yeah.
It's very new that people are even able to play online at this point, much less being able to like purchase things digitally or rent them digitally, which is really what a subscription service is.
Yeah.
And today, it's kind of taking over the industry. You can't really escape it, no matter what console you get, even if you are just on PC. So while we discuss this today and get to the main topic at hand that is permeating, I guess, this week's news.
Infestation, I would probably say, is the better term.
Yeah, we're going to be playing just some random games in the background. I have, just as it is relevant, Nintendo's NSO.
Hey!
And, you know, let's not start on a sour note. Let's talk about something good. I actually kind of like NSO.
Yeah, for what it is, I do enjoy it. Yeah.
So, sure, I was bummed at first when Nintendo said we have to pay money to play their video games online with each other with connectivity and all that. And sure, that sucks, but this is a really great free pack-in. And now, to be completely fair, it's not all free. You can pay a lot of money extra and get N64 and Sega Genesis and Game Boy Advance.
Yep.
Which is nice to see those. So the alternative would be having the eShop that we had on the 3DS, the Nintendo Wii,
Wii U.
the Wii U. Oh, right, forget about that thing even exists.
Nintendo wants you to forget that it exists, honestly.
I know, like, I really love that model of just make an online service where I can purchase any of these games that I want. And
yes.
And make sure that it is installed on the system that I said it was, and I can pick it up and play it whenever I want. I can boot up my Nintendo Wii right now and play Super Metroid, because I purchased Super Metroid on my Nintendo Wii.
Yep.
However, they took down the servers for the Nintendo Wii, and so if someone goes to weirdly enough, a yard sale, before we started recording this, my next door neighbors had a yard sale going, and they were selling Wii games, funnily enough.
Yeah.
But say you go over there and you buy a Nintendo Wii that they're selling for $20. You cannot buy Super Metroid with that, and you cannot own it because it was only on this online service.
Yep, once the servers goes down, that's about it.
Right, so I do enjoy the idea of what this is as a concept, and what NSO is saying, okay, how about instead of charging someone $5 per NES game and $8 for Super Nintendo game, and what was it? I think it was $10 for an N64 game.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, let's just have an open service where they can just basically play them on demand.
Yeah,
even freeze and do save states, which is something you could not do on the regular eShop downloaded titles. You were literally just booting an emulator at that point.
The rewind feature, so that way if you
rewind is incredible. Yeah, I can back up if I've made a mistake.
Yep.
And honestly, that has really helped me cut down on a lot of time and grinds for playing like Ninja Gaiden or Ghosts and Goblins or Zelda 2.
Yeah.
It makes those really hard NES games much more approachable to a modern audience, and I think that is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it really is. Because for me, like, stuff like NSO, what I appreciate about it is the convenience it offers.
Yes.
Like, I
at
don't
any
have
moment, I can just say, you know, I feel like playing Super Mario Bros. 1. I loved this game when I was a kid, and I can pick it up and play it at any moment now, even on the go, because the Switch is a portable console.
Exactly. Because it's like, you know, sometimes, especially if you look at the Nintendo Switch online store, it's kind of a mess.
Yes.
And so
it's becoming Steam lately.
Yeah, and one, it's like, hard to think that two companies that are associated with quality have online stores that can be interesting to try through.
Yeah, like, how come there's so many hentai games on the Nintendo eShop right now?
The family-friendly console.
Yeah, man, you would have never seen anything like that. Granted, they're still heavily censored, and they have to pass a bunch of checks, but those checks are far more lenient nowadays than they used to be.
They're still there.
Yeah.
But that's what I appreciate about it. It's like, there is a curated selection of games.
Which is the next problem, I think. The word curated. I do love that these are here.
Yes.
However, there's a lot of missing stuff. So if we're just going to say NES, because I'm on the NES right now.
Yes.
One of the best NES games is also one of the most expensive in physical print, and that's Little Samson.
Yeah.
I can't play that here.
Nope.
What about all the licensed games? There were way more licensed games back in the day than there are now.
The Goonies 2 is actually a really fun NES game, but it's not on NSO because they don't have the licenses from whoever made the game and the movie rights holders and everything else.
It's never going to happen.
No, it's not. That's the terrible part.
Yeah, that game is gone forever. And we've discussed this before, but the thing is, we're talking about a video game subscription service, and if we're going to talk about the pluses and minuses, this is a definite minus, where certain games will just never see the light of day ever again.
No, and that's the terrible part. And even with, like, not even in the subscription service, but just on online stores, it's so easy for things to get delisted or just taken off.
And I love this. Like, I made a mistake, I'll just back right up. Boom.
Right up.
It's just a time save. It doesn't make the game harder. I still have to execute things properly.
Yep, exactly. But what else about NSO do I actually like? The one other thing I do appreciate about it is that there are multiple consoles that you can pay for.
Yeah,
and
surprisingly, Sega is on there too.
Yeah, and there's multiple payment
Just the
options.
Genesis. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if I don't want to pay $20 for the whole year, so if I just wanted to pay for 30 days, for a month, just to bask in the glory of the Super Nintendo or Nintendo or whatever, $4
a month.
Yeah, just for 1 month.
That's a great deal.
Yeah, and that's,
Think of how much you can play in 1 month. Imagine back in the, say it is 87, and you have the option at your video game rental store to rent their entire, a curated library of lots of great games, and you can play them as many times as you want in a month.
Exactly.
That would be so freaking popular. Now imagine you don't even have to switch cartridges each time you want to switch to something.
Yep.
You can save state, you can rewind. It would break the industry in the 80s.
Oh, exactly. Well, didn't Nintendo actually try that with their vending machine thing where they had the rewritable Famicom? Yes, the rewritable Famicom Discoon.
Yes.
Discs.
They did.
Yes. But
that was the idea. You were supposed to physically take in this disc and choose what game you wanted to be on it instead.
But once you were done with the game, if you wanted to get a new one, you would just take it to the kiosk.
I want the Legend of Zelda now.
Yep. You just insert the game disc and it rewrites over the floppy disk, and there you go. Bam, you got Zelda 1 on your Famicom disk system instead of Mario Brothers. Which, is very similar, kind of. It's just with now, like I said, it's the big convenience of not having to get up or go anywhere and do anything. Plug in your credit card, just be like, you go, Nintendo, have $20 for the year just so I can play online and play these games.
Yeah, you can play Pokemon or Monster Hunter or Animal Crossing, whatever you wanted to do online, on top of having this stuff. And that's the thing about this anymore. This is seen as a bonus. It's not like this is the product itself.
No, but going into the multiple payment options list, though, that's also the big con as well. I think that's probably one of the biggest cons.
It starts getting really, really pricey.
It gets really pricey and can get really confusing, too.
Yeah, I agree. And this is not just Nintendo, but for the sake of sticking to Nintendo at the moment for, trying to figure this out.
Yes.
I do agree. I think the N64 and the Sega Genesis Game Boy Advance bundle.
The expansion plus
the expansion is really overpriced. Even though I love those systems and I want to be able to play those games, it's just asking a little too much for somebody. Like, you already know right now, you were selling the NES, the Game Boy, and the Super Nintendo as a free packet.
Yes.
It's not even a full list of games. You were selling them as a free incentive for people to buy online.
Yep.
If you're going to put extra consoles to it, it shouldn't be that much of a price hike.
No, it really shouldn't be, because let's say you wanted to pay for just Nintendo Switch Online, get the basics. That's $20 a year if you wanted just to do that, to be able to play Smash, Mario Kart Online,
right,
play Mario 1. But if you want the expansion pack on top of that for just one individual, $50 a year for the individual. And there isn't even multiple
individual.
And that's not, and there's no per month basis like there is for the base online online subscription service.
That's what you get.
Yeah, no, but if you want the family, so say, Alex, if you and Timothy wanted to play, different stuff.
On the same system.
On the same system, no less, yes. That's $80. Now, granted, you do get some really good games on there, but I don't think that that's worth the price. One of the other things that they try to sell with the online expansion pack is free DLC for modern games.
Right, which I don't understand either.
Right, well, because the thing is, it's not really free. You're still having to pay extra for that service, right? That was quick.
Because you can rewind. I made a few mistakes in there. Imagine if I was running around a small Mario for half that and I didn't have the Fire Flower. See, that's the thing. Like, these games are far more accessible now, and I think that is such a strength. It is. I tend to overlook the fact that I can't select a ton of other games that I would want to also play on these consoles. There's a ton of things. Like, I can't play Castlevania on this. I can't play Mega Man on this.
No.
There's a lot of missing big name stuff that is just not here.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, I still think that, like, having this and saying that anybody can, on demand, just pick this up and play it. Right now, I am making an in-depth series showcasing Super Metroid, called the Super Metroid Experience, showing people how impactful this game really is, because even though I can keep telling people, like, hey, you need to play some of these old games, just because they're old doesn't mean they're bad.
No.
Some of these are outstanding, and you should still play them today, and they're better than what we're getting today. And people don't believe that. So making a game series where I can, like, tell people all about it, and knowing that at any moment they can easily access this game, it makes it so much better, so that I know that they actually can get into it and play it, and they might be able to discover new things. The thing is, why does it take us so long for Nintendo to actually give us new stuff on these?
Yeah, exactly.
And when they do, they are questionable includes at best. We do get some cool ones, like they added Earthbound, the original beginning, like Mother 1, effectively. They added Earthbound Beginnings, but Mother 1 to NSO. Other than that, there's a bunch of really weird
Again, I think
picks on here.
And that's one of the other big problems. It all comes down to licensing. And because everyone else needs their cut of whatever is going to be coming Nintendo's way. And that's where you run into a big issue with a lot of subscription services. It's just that whole, it's like, well, can we even get this offer going? And if we do, how long can we get this? Or can we expect this to get taken down at any point?
Right. So seeing other stuff, like this is a Tecmo game, Ninja Gaiden.
Yes.
I'm really happy to see this, because Ninja Gaiden, I think, still is one of the best games you can actually play on the system. It's got some of the best gameplay. It's very hard, but like I mentioned, you can rewind. And you also have the ability to save state between levels if you wanted to.
Exactly. That way, if you die on a boss, you can just rewind and give it a go without having to go through that whole level again. It saves you so much time. And, especially if you're not looking to really get good at the game, but you just want to at least experience a really fantastic action platformer, that's actually not a bad little way to go. It's not a bad way to do it.
Unfortunately, you don't have Ninja Gaiden 2 and 3, and I mean, if you can only have one, have the first one, but still, I love Ninja Gaiden 2. It's a great time, but
that's the thing. And also too, some of these things that Nintendo offers as incentives, going back to the free DLC for the expansion pack plus, if at any time your subscription lapses, and this not only counts for Nintendo stuff but PlayStation stuff as well, if it lapses, you no longer have access to anything. So not any of the Game Boy Advance, N64, Super Nintendo even.
Your backup saves.
And the free DLC that they gave you. So if you have save data on say Animal Crossing and you were going to the islands that the DLC gives you, guess you don't have access to those islands unless you pony up another $50 for the whole year. I don't know. It feels like it's trying to bend your arm, oh, yep, you gotta pay. I don't have money, but you gotta.
Yeah, Sony does this too. So, for example, when I was playing Monster Hunter World online, I would get access to some freebie extra games that they were just kind of, they say, giving out. You would think then on print, if I am subscribed to PlayStation. Is it now or PlayStation Online? Whatever they call it, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's PlayStation Plus.
PlayStation Plus. Yeah, they keep changing these things. So you're subscribed to PlayStation Plus, And The Last of Us Remastered is put on there, right? And it was. And I downloaded it, I played it that way, and that's how I got to hands-on play The Last of Us. That was cool.
Yeah.
And you would think this is effectively like the Epic Game Store, where it just gives out a game for free, because that's what they tell you it is.
Yep, no strings attached. It's installed. You can play it whenever.
That's a lie.
Yep.
What it is, though, is you can only boot that software. Even though it is installed on your system, you can only boot that software if you are currently a member of PlayStation Plus and paying for it. Mm-hmm. And now it's starting to get really dicey, meaning that they own you. You have to continuously pay them if you want to have access to everything that you thought you owned. They're holding what you think you own hostage from you. And they're doing this on purpose. They know that it's installed on your system. They're doing what they can to make sure that they still have you.
Right. It's all about... It's that sort of Apple mentality. They're trying to keep you within their ecosystem.
Yeah,
and
they want
be
you
as a recurring payer.
Exactly. Yes. They want you to exclusively be in it for their system, and they want you to only play their games.
It's that FOMO and sunk cost fallacy too, because it's like, oh well, I've spent this much money on PlayStation Plus this year. I might as well just re-up my subscription so I can keep playing online and keep playing these free games.
Yeah, I wasn't finished with playing Shadow of the Colossus or something, or whatever games that they gave us, and I want to finish that. Well, tough.
Too bad. Pony up another, however many dollars. Also, really pretty convenient timing, since we're talking about this. If you guys remember, but a few weeks back, I believe, Sony has decided to up the price of its PlayStation Plus subscription service as well, up to $40 per service.
That is insane.
So let's see here. If I scroll down a little bit, let's look at what The Verge is saying. The Essentials plan goes from $60 to $80. Okay, $20 increase. It's $10 more than a new PS5 game. Whatever. That's for a full year. However, if you want better options and you want better selections of services and games,
which of course,
if you go for the extra plan, it's going from $100 a year to $135 a year.
That's ridiculous.
Or better yet, Alex, don't you want to pay for the premium plan to get the best service possible?
No.
Well, too bad. If you were paying $120 before, you're going to have to be paying, I believe, a couple weeks back. Yep, the new pricing goes into effect September 6th. You're now paying $160 for their premium service a year.
Oh my God.
It feels like very much like something out of a pulp movie. It feels like a Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
I have altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly how it feels.
Yeah, we have absolutely no say in this.
The fact that they can just kind of alter that whenever it feels convenient to them, I don't know. It almost feels like it kind of breaks some sort of contractual obligation. And that's the other thing, too. Even Xbox, from what I've just seen, is actually increasing their price for their, their Game Pass, which I will say, do you know much about, what Game Pass offers?
It's great. It's
yes.
People say it, and to an extent, I agree. It's the best deal that anyone can... If you're only going to purchase one thing in the industry, it's probably the best thing you can buy.
Absolutely. It's a constantly rotating service of free games every 3 months, every 4 months, like every tertial or quarter, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and you also get a great selection of games. Xbox Game Pass, when Sea of Stars came out, that was one of the first... Came out day one on Xbox Game Pass, so you could play it and try it, and if you really wanted to own it forever, you could just pay the $35 for it, and from what you've told me, it's worth that much.
Oh, it is outstanding. Not to get into Sea of Stars too much, honestly, I'm going to bring it up later. Just... As of right now, it's my game of the year.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
No contest. No contest.
Well, I guess I better get on it then.
It's okay. I don't want to get into it too much. Yeah. It is basically the best aspects of the best RPGs I have ever played in my entire life, all happening at once.
That's phenomenal.
With music by Rainbow Dragon Eyes and Yasunori Mitsuda.
Yes.
Oh my... Do not sleep on Sea of Stars. But anyway,
gosh.
I will be bringing that up later as soon as we move on to the recent thing that has happened that has actually kind of sparked this episode.
Yeah, so, so going back to Xbox Game Pass, I do appreciate the fact, too, that it not only applies to the Xbox family of systems, but PC as well. So if I subscribe to it on PC, I can still get, their rotating game list and try it as well. And if I feel like getting it on Steam, I can just buy it later.
Right.
Which is really cool. However, going back to what I alluded to with Sony, they're increasing their Game Pass price.
Everyone's
as well.
increasing stuff, and the way that Nintendo has gotten around this is basically to add the expansion and make it obscenely priced.
Yeah.
And I would love to have access to a fully functional N64 emulator. And that's arguably why it's taken so long for them to finally put that on there. We've been waiting a long time for them to add stuff. And of course, when they do, it's like, what, every year we get like a total of 4 games on each of these systems? How long does it really take to put a new ROM, these are just ROMs, onto their custom-made emulator?
Now, granted, each game has its own little bit of finagling you have to do to make sure it at least runs properly.
Especially the N64.
And if you're not using, like, open source stuff, if you're trying to make your own, I get it. But still, it's like, fans have done it way earlier than Nintendo ever deemed fit to do it.
And never charged for it.
Yeah, so...
Though Project 64 now is basically charging for their emulator.
Oh, wait, for real?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for God's sake.
I know. And I was just complaining, the N64 is the hardest one to do.
Yeah.
However, Project 64, for like 20 years now, has been the go-to N64 emulator.
Yes.
And now if you boot up Project 64, any of its newer versions, it will pull a pop-up menu. Not that I would know. It'll pull up a pop-up menu that'll...
No, of course
It
not.
will not go away for like 30 seconds to a minute or something. It's obscene. And it basically begs you to donate to them a set amount. And if you don't, the pop-up menu will always be there. And it will never go away. You're basically paying for the emulator without actually legally paying for it. And that's not okay.
And there's no way to disable that pop-up. Huh?
No. Jeez. I get that it's a lot of work. I get it. But if they aren't willing to do it without, being paid for it, they shouldn't be doing it.
No, exactly. And emulators themselves are legal because a lot of that is reverse engineered. That's how we That's how we got a lot of open source stuff, and that's how we got new computers and competitors and all that stuff.
Right. But competition drives this industry.
Right. But the thing is, it's not really useful unless if you know what you're doing with it, to play the games, which is that part's the legal gray area, rather. But it's why pay? Why try to ask me to pay for that to get rid of that feature? That just seems really weird. When I can,
it's paying for convenience is all it is.
I understand. I mean,
it's not okay. I really don't like that either.
No, whatever. But again, going back to the price increase for Xbox Game Pass, it looks like from what I'm seeing according to IGN, well, okay, for Ultimate, the all-inclusive package has seen a $2 hike, landing at $17 a month for new members for Ultimate Game Pass.
They know that it was such a great deal, and now, unfortunately, they're just starting to really capitalize on that.
Thank you, IGN. Yeah, because they were such a good deal, they had such a good market share, and that's how they get you. Honestly, they bring you in at rock bottom prices, and because you're so invested, like we said earlier with PlayStation Plus,
they've got you.
They got you. You're part of the Microsoft ecosystem now. So it's
they know that effectively you're using it as your entire library.
Pretty much,
it's turning into a Netflix subscription that you're that's all you have. You choose okay, do you watch Netflix or do you watch Hulu kind of thing. And that's what they want to see this as, and I get it. It's streamable media. They think that in some ways that really makes sense.
But the thing too is even with something like Netflix and also too with PlayStation Plus and Microsoft Game Pass, you don't get to keep anything, and at a moment's notice something can be kind of pulled from that service. And if you hadn't played it or watched it or anything while it was available, tough luck. Guess you just won't have that option. And that's the other big thing too. It's it's all these rights distribution, non-legal nonsense that has to be juggled. And if people don't want to play ball, then they just can't. It has to be pulled. I don't know. This whole streaming nonsense, this sort of, I guess, almost ephemeral essence, or actually no, not ephemeral. Ephemeral's too poetic. Disposability that they kind of put to this.
Yeah, it's this is just seen as yesterday's garbage.
Yeah, it's you want to play Biohazard 7 or Resi 7? Yeah, sure, whatever. We'll just put that on there. Just give us what did I say? It was almost $18 a month now for Xbox Game Pass. Yeah, just give us $18 a month. You can play it for a little bit, whatever. And that's just it. It's like, it's all of these like buts. It's all of these clauses that you kind of have to take part and parcel with the convenience and the selection. So it's like you kind of have to pick your poison. Do I want to spend so much more money on a game that I might not even want to play, or do I want to pay per month in smaller installments, but still end up paying more in the long run for something I won't even be able to own permanently?
The version that we seem to be implying does exist, though. It's not ideal, though, but it is with Humble Bundle.
Yes.
And this isn't just purchasing a group of games, say, like Resident Evil. They had a really great Resident Evil one several months back.
Yeah, they did.
That just sold basically all the Resident Evil games on Steam. There you go. They're all bundled for like $20 or something. It was a great deal. I bought it.
Yep.
And sure, you could do that, but they also have Humble Choice. We are not sponsored, Humble, so let us know. And if you purchase a month of Humble Choice, you can basically download to keep a set number of games to redeem on Steam.
Exactly, yeah.
And they just because you don't pay for Humble Choice the next month doesn't mean that they revoke the game from you.
Yeah,
because, so for example, one of the months had Ghostwire Tokyo in it for like, what are this, like $12 for Humble Choice?
Yes.
I was like, okay, Kim wanted to play that game, so I don't care about the rest of the games on this list. I'm basically seeing this as buy Ghostwire Tokyo for $12. Do this, and Kim can still, months later, boot it and continue playing her game.
Right, and the thing, too, is also that it's also going to charity. A lot of the time. So not only their bundles, but I think some of their proceeds for Humble Monthly or Humble Choice does go towards various charities.
Yeah, and not
cool.
Buying the next multimillionaire his new yacht, which is really where the rest of our money is going in the other directions in the industry. Which is now a good time to transition to the actual thing that has set all of this off today.
Yep, that would be the Unity price rug pull.
So, I think what has set all of this off is, now I'm forgetting the douchebag's name.
The guy who was the former CEO of EA, John Riccitiello, is now the head of the Unity
so
engine.
two separate instances of what happened. But regardless, boils down to
new CEO,
we expect a new some change to be occurring in EA. Oh, no, I'm sorry, EA.
Unity.
In Unity as well as EA. Good. Maybe EA's got a purge. So. Maybe it just lost its worst person. This guy who just took over Unity is known for being a despicable human being.
Yep.
I can't even on here in good conscience say some of the quotes this man has said out loud. Publicly too, not even like just offhandedly. Behind closed doors. He has said some horrible things about game companies that don't aggressively go after microtransactions
and monetization
and everything, and he calls them idiots for lack of what he actually says.
But his name is John Riccitiello. He was the former CEO of EA. This is the same guy who wanted to charge you microtransactions for $1 a clip of bullets in Battlefield. Especially like once you're 6 hours in and you're into a multiplayer match and you want to.
What you doing?
See, now he would have monetized that. Hey, you want to get past this dude? Get a power up to get rid of him.
You joke, but that's what he did.
Yep. And so eventually,
this is the pay to win. Like, man, that's his thing.
And so once he took over Unity, for a while things didn't really change that much, from what I understand, for like the game engine. Unity itself is a third-party game maker engine that a lot of games have used. From one of my favorite first-person shooters of recent memory, Dusk, to one of the best games, as you said, of the year in your opinion, Sea of Stars, which I also think The Messenger was made in Unity as well at this point.
I think, I'm not positive. Actually, I'm not 100% positive if Sea of Stars was. We should look that up to confirm it. Okay.
It was, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, so, a lot of people use this, not only indie devs.
Yes,
but,
it's in, if you don't know what Unity is, we should just clear this up.
The third party.
It's basically, it was an open source video game engine that any developer can use for free to learn. However, there were still packages and stuff for them to pay in order to have better publishing options.
Yeah, for more options, more publishing options.
You could still export basically to whatever you wanted.
It was Unity.
Okay, good. Just making absolutely sure, because it's going to be relevant later with the discussion, because I think we want to stick with Sea of Stars, because it is a new thing that we've seen succeed well.
And do phenomenal.
Oh yeah, on free services like Xbox Live, and also succeed very well in Kickstarter. It made quite a bit there to even get the ground rolling, to even probably get Yasunori Mitsuda. And on top of that, it's selling very well. It is #1 in the Switch sales right now.
Didn't they
on the
say
eShop?
Didn't they say within like a certain amount of time they'd already sold 250,000 units?
I think they've passed that. Yeah, sold. In this game, you can play for free with Xbox Game Pass. Okay.
So that's the quality, and that's how much people were looking forward to this. So this engine has been used for so many great games over the years.
Yes.
And like I said, when this guy John Riccatello, remember the name and remember to say curse you.
When I
don't like to talk bad about people, but
me neither.
In this instance, it's like, really, are we doing this?
For example, when I was teaching at college level, I did teach a video game development course.
Oh, okay.
And I used Unity.
Yes.
Even though it came out later that Unity had, even back then, and I was teaching like 5 years ago, they were aggressively trying to put extra transactions in to make sure that schools had to pay a huge exorbitant fee. So actually, to even get this to function, I didn't tell the person, the chairman of the department that I was using Unity, because it really didn't matter. It was just like teaching kids what they were doing. Also, that's really scummy.
It really is. So it's like you have all these.
You shouldn't have to pay. This is an educational problem in general. You shouldn't have to pay to learn. Learning should be free.
It should. Kind of going into that with Unity, you have multiple pricing options. So there's like a personal package you can get, a teaching package,
right,
a free package, and a professional package that you pay monthly for. I think the professional package was like a couple thousand a month.
I think it's 2,000. It's insane.
Yeah, so but you get the best version of that game engine with
the Unity
updates.
Engine, right.
Yeah, with updates and tech support and all that.
Which should be left alone, and that should. Honest, I don't like it, but if that's how they make their money, sure, whatever. That's their business.
Yes.
But it gets much, much worse than this.
Yeah. So recently, what happened is
what happened?
Their new pricing option has come up where basically you are going to be owing, once you reach a certain threshold, not only in sales but just installs. Installs only. You will start owing Unity money per install of anything that uses the Unity runtime engine on top of a subscription that you already pay for the engine itself.
Yes. Now, aside from this being a despicable even concept.
Oh, it's a massive rug pull.
It's okay.
Oh my god.
And this is not only applying to stuff that is releasing after this point. Supposedly they're going to do this to anything that has ever used Unity in the past.
Yeah, it's going to be priced, it's going to be taxed. I will say taxed at this point.
It really is.
It's going to be taxed retroactively. And how are they going to find out these numbers? How are they going to actually look up and make sure there's no fraud, mass downloads just to screw with
exactly
all
like
that?
People now will go to Metacritic and just like review bomb something that they don't like. Now what they can do is actually buy the game and then uninstall it, reinstall it, uninstall it, reinstall it thousands of times and run that company out of business.
Yep, a lot of people on Twitter have been saying, we will be paying more than we actually make off this game if you do this.
Oh, many have.
So,
and even worse, think about what happens to, let's just say, Sea of Stars.
Yeah.
When this game can be played and installed for free.
Now, are those going to count towards the developer having to pay?
According to what they've said so far, I believe so.
Yeah, I think they either just came out yesterday or today or something like that. This is all developing and happening in real time, so we're trying. I'm trying my best to keep up with. I don't know everything about this. I'm just trying to spread awareness. But
it's also so gross. Like I don't want to know sometimes. You know,
it is, but it goes in with the subscription model and how you don't own the things that you pay for technically. But it looks like that they're saying that if it's like on Game Pass or something, the publisher or the platform holder will be having to pay that tax. So Unity will have the gall to go to Microsoft and say, hey, this has been downloaded 7 million times on Xbox Game Pass. Where's our money?
I actually think one game in particular is going to make this whole thing go away.
What game do you think that is?
Did you know that Pokemon Go is made in Unity?
Oh, that's right. Now, okay.
Ain't no way they are gonna let that happen.
Yeah, because they did say that in burgeoning markets or some, like, legalese weasel speak, that mobile gaming won't be taxed as much.
Doesn't matter.
No,
if you
it doesn't
tax
matter.
it, period. Nintendo is coming after you.
Yeah, Nintendo, Pokemon Company,
that
Niantic,
game makes too much money. And clearly they're not putting it back into the game to make the game even better, which I find really irritating in its own right. But it doesn't matter. That game is made in Unity, and so is Niantic's new game, Monster Hunter Now.
Yes.
Which sucks, by the way.
Oh, it does. I was actually going to ask you.
I'll show you later. Like, it just came out in terms of this recording.
I see.
It sucks. Maybe a whole other discussion for later, but still. Those games are free to download, so people can install them as many times as they want. So if they hate it, they can... Theoretically, you could put Niantic, and Nintendo would... You can put them out of business, and Nintendo would have to get rid of them, even though that's the most profitable video game in, like, the past 5 years.
Yeah, basically. Now, the other thing, too, that I find really scummy and what I don't understand. So, say I wanted to put Sea of Stars on... I get it on Steam, right?
As you should.
Right, that
and then you want to get it on Nintendo Switch and double dip, because you should.
Well, say I also, down the line, I want to get a Steam Deck. I download Sea of Stars from my own personal account, not only on my PC, but on my Steam Deck. That's considered 2 installs. And it's under my thing. Because the way that they said it is that... The way they said it is that we're not going to track it by individuals who own it. It's just going to be install numbers. So I could accidentally run up Sabotage's bills by 4 cents by accident.
By yourself.
Yes.
And let's just say that you have a really small SD card in your Nintendo Switch.
Yes.
And you really like Sea of Stars, but you want to keep playing Persona 4 Golden or something.
Yeah.
So you uninstall it for a while, and then you turn on Sea of Stars, the next month. Yeah. You're costing them money.
Yeah, because you installed it again.
Oh my god, look at this little...
oh my gosh, he's worse than the Flea Man in Castlevania.
Oh god, we've gotten a little far in this. Maybe I should just back it up to that point and just say, all right. Let's switch games.
You beat this before.
I have. Let's just go to the game section.
But
in fact, let's play a different whole console because I can go back and do such. How about the Game Boy?
Yep.
One thing to try and transition to something good again, just very quickly. Some stuff that was impossible to emulate or would have been lost to time forever, for example, Kirby's Tilt and Tumble is right here and accessible on NSO in the Game Boy, and this game used an accessory on the Game Boy to have gyro controls, which now physically work with your controller with gyro controls.
And even in handheld.
That's amazing!
That is really cool.
That's so cool. I'm so glad that this happened.
But this is not the kind of quality we can always expect, and that's the problem.
Right, and I see it here. I want it for the rest of the stuff. I want it everywhere else. I know there is a Japan-only sequel to the Pokemon Trading Card Game, which is a great Game Boy Color game. I actually really like this game.
Okay.
And I've been playing through a ROM English-patched version of the sequel, just to even see what it is, and it's got the Team Rocket cards. I think it's even got some of the Gym Leader cards. It's a direct...
The Fossil set and all that even?
Well, Fossil, I think, is in Trading Card Game.
Okay.
The first one. So this has base Jungle Fossil, and then the other one has that plus more in promos and stuff.
That's really cool, actually.
And you would never have seen that or known about it. I didn't know about it until just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And of course, that isn't here because now that requires more time to officially make a translated version of it. Though, another plus of this, because of NSO, arguably, we finally saw the release of Star Fox 2. Yeah. Though I think that came on the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo Classic first.
That was originally released on the SNES Classic back in 2017.
That would never have happened on here were it not for them putting time into their retro games and actually polishing them up so that they're in a finished state and we can give it to people.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're also they kind of screwed over Argonaut. And profiting off of Star Fox 2
Yeah, they're not changing history, unfortunately. But still, it's there. It's there,
Again, it's that kind of give and take you have to really look at with subscription services.
Right.
I think the main thing that I also really wanted to bring up with this whole Unity thing exploding in public consciousness as well, things can change at a moment's notice. And that's the problem. It's like, everyone, they're always wanting to say, oh, you don't want to own anything physically. It's like, this is so much more convenient. And
you
this
don't
is
know
just
nothing about me.
Yeah, right. These kind of things can just change at a moment's notice.
Yes, they can.
And that's what I wanted to really bring up. These price hikes, what Unity has done, not only charging
you don't
on top
own
of...
what you think you own. So, for
Yes.
example, Sea of Stars. I purchased this game digitally on the Nintendo Switch. You can probably even see it on my home menu when I was back there.
Yep.
Let's just say that, hypothetically, this stuff goes into effect, and somehow it actually becomes legal, and everyone suddenly owes Unity millions of dollars. And Sea of Stars has to go offline, goes bankrupt. I purchased this game, and it will be taken off the eShop, and it will be gone forever. What? Do I get my money back? No, because no refunds are on the Nintendo online library.
Also, too, what if someone's pirated the game and they keep reinstalling it? Who's going to have to end up owing Unity money? Is Nintendo going to have to? Is Steam going to have to?
The problem is they don't understand the industry enough to enforce something like this. No. He's just a greedy monster. That's really all this is. Star Fox 2, I guess.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, talking about it.
And so that's the big thing I wanted to bring up. It's like, I don't know, that sounds kind of conspiratorial. I don't want to say it's like this big push to try to just get more money out of everyone by completely throwing things like physical out.
Listening to what that guy has been quoted as saying, I 100% believe that is the case. I know you don't want to go that far and assume the worst in people, but this guy puts that on his his resume. I am the Antichrist when it comes to video game marketing. If you have money, it belongs to me.
Well, I don't want to starve. How am I going to feed my family on my third yacht when we go to Bermuda?
Kim and I were actually just talking about this, where there's a factor. You've probably seen memes and pictures where celebrities or really, really, really rich CEOs go into like a home of a normal middle class person's house, and they're just like disgusted. Or, don't understand what this place is. And I like to call this the barbecue sauce effect because of this clip that Mark Zuckerberg did where he was pretending to relate to normal people and he had to decorate stuff behind him. And just on this shelf, by itself, just look up Mark Zuckerberg barbecue sauce and you'll it's hilarious. And he's just standing in front of a barbecue sauce just by itself, sitting on a shelf. And it's not like you misplaced it. No, he's like, what do normal people have in their house? Barbecue sauce? Okay, it's just what's happening?
I too enjoy Sweet Baby Ray's.
These people are aliens, and that guy in particular, not to be particularly mean, but have you seen the wax recreation of people?
It looks...
There's a wax model of Mark Zuckerberg that looks more like a human than he does. If you look at the two together, I guarantee you're going to say that the real Mark Zuckerberg is the wax model, and the real one is the you'll get them mixed up.
Well, don't you know he's a lizard man in a skin suit? That's the whole, that's the whole thing.
Look at that. I believe some of that crap. Anyway.
Yeah, so what's the point of all of us talking about this stuff?
Yeah. Well, I'm scared.
Yeah. Okay, so here's
I'm scared because I don't want to do damage to this industry. I love Sabotage Studios as one company, as an example. I don't want to do any damage to them. Gosh, no. I wanted to support them, and I knew that even though Sea of Stars was going to get a limited print run physical eventually, that would cost more than a digital, I couldn't wait for it, and I wanted to be a part of the huge numbers that they're getting right now.
And I don't blame you in the slightest. Yeah.
Oh, and man, I am so glad I did. The game is the best thing I've played all year. And it's wonderful, but what if all of a sudden I find out I was hurting them? Well, and you would be hurting them.
Yes.
Anyone who buys their games is hurting them.
You know the game Cult of the Lamb? That cool little roguelike? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did you see the tweet that they put out that said, you better buy Cult of the Lamb because come January 1st, we're going to delete it off of store shelves. You're no longer going to be able to buy it.
Is that if the Unity goes through?
Yes. If this whole thing goes through. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, look, I know in life, if I don't mean to get like too philosophical, nothing in life is permanent. However, I have the knowledge that I can get things physically, or I can actually purchase things and I should be able to keep them. I wholeheartedly appreciate the convenience that something like NSO or Xbox Game Pass provides. It's really cool. I've discovered a lot of cool stuff that I never would have thought to have tried.
Same.
And I was able to like support individual studios, like going out and actually buying some of their games. And that's really cool.
I've learned a lot about gaming history. I've discovered a lot more. I can even go back to our earlier episodes in HITBOX and listen to it and go, wow, I didn't even know about this at the time. And that you see, in our perspective, I can see how much I've learned from this point.
Yes.
Just making some of these, and I know how much I don't know. You know, like there's some phrase that I'm going to botch where someone who thinks that they know it all clearly knows that they don't know anything.
Yeah, it's that
the more the more confident you are in something, the less you know about it, and the more you are educated in it, and the more you know, the more intimidated by what you were researching, and the less you think you know.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that valley of knowledge graph, right? If nothing else, I know it's a ploy to make money. It's all about to make money. This is a commercial, artistic medium. I get that, and I appreciate that. What I want is options to actually be able to keep the things I'm paying for, not only in terms of like the services I'm paying for month to month, year to year, because eventually things are going to get taken down. It's going to be too much of a hassle for companies to like keep these services going, like with Nintendo with the 3DS and Wii U shop. Not saying that they did not have the resources or that they couldn't maintain the server. It wasn't
making enough money.
It wasn't making enough money, and it was also a potential securities issue. If they weren't going to update it, people would have a way to hack in and like do, bad actor, stuff that, like hacking, malicious practices and stuff. So that part I understand. So that part's going to go away. I still want the chance to be able to keep what I paid for. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know. And God, I don't know if there's a solution.
They're really
not with the current CEOs we have right now who see this industry as just a way to make boatloads of cash,
and not as
an art form.
Right, not as an art form, and also too, there is just not the way that the laws stand in terms of like the way software works, not just video games, just software in general. Because like we were talking about with Unity, they just did that rug pull on everybody. Unless if something like that changes. I still have hopes up that
they're going to have to fight too many juggernauts to make this work.
Yeah.
And I've got a feeling it's not going to fly, but
it ain't.
We don't know.
So,
it may. That's the scary thing, is it might.
Right. Now, unless if certain laws regarding like rug pulls and price gouging and all that sort of stuff starts coming up, and actually acts as a protection for everybody, then, we might actually be able to see, hey, this is going to be fine. They can't do this. I don't even know how this would hold up in court. I don't even know how anyone would go along with this. Legally,
yes. I don't understand how you can even
enforce this.
Exactly. Like, what do you do? Like you mentioned before, somebody is emulating the game. And if that is trackable, just because they happen to be online, then nothing's to stop any single human being from choosing to put any company out of business.
Exactly.
Why wouldn't, if this goes into effect, how come Unity, if they knew what they were doing, why wouldn't they go onto any of the eShops and just purchase, like crazy, a ton of games from a bunch of different developers, and then just make everything install and then uninstall, reinstall, uninstall, and just pay employees to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the thing is, from what I found out, it's like, what if someone downloads a copy and sets up, like, for PC, a bunch of virtual machines?
Right.
And, like, suddenly decides, okay, I'm going to install this 50 times on my 50 virtual machines, uninstall, reinstall, and have a program that just does this for, 24 hours.
Right. We have bots that farm Bitcoin. You could easily do this to farm just installs.
Now, I know that that's not, like, everyone is not capable of that, but that is still a thing that can be done.
Yes.
And there's no way to protect a company from that. And how do they track all this stuff? Like, what programs or what information are they going to gather from to determine if things are being fraudulently, downloaded, installed, uninstalled, and all that. It basically comes down to, as everyone else has said online, a trust me bro system. We have our proprietary means. The heck you do. It's basically weasel words to try to get out of any potential claims, so that way they can just back off things, which they've already started to backpedal on some of their original thing.
But that's the thing. Politicians do this kind of crap all the time, where they will intentionally ask for way too much for something, even though they don't even feasibly want what they actually asked for at first.
Yeah, exactly.
They're doing it on purpose so that when they have to meet in the middle, they get what they wanted to begin with.
Yes, exactly. It's a very proven tactic, and from what I'm also learning about the way that businesses operate, or kind of am gleaning, is that consumer trust and the consumers themselves are almost a sort of currency, almost, that you can just store up, and then whenever you want to pull some BS like this, you can just cash it out and then blammo.
You could even, like Nintendo, decide at certain moments that you're going to start selling, and we've talked about this before, start selling some games that you could easily have just put on the NSO bundle, like Fire Emblem. The original Fire Emblem, they translated it. How come they never put that on NSO? Because they could charge you money for it individually, like a bunch of other games are doing. And then, because that's what's happening to, Castlevania and Mega Man, and I understand that. They want to make their money, but I still feel like maybe Nintendo should just have paid, agreed on a set licensing fee, and give them a cut of NSO if that's really what it comes down to. Just, I want there to, I know it's not going to happen. Maybe it will eventually, but I just want some safe place to preserve what these are.
And I hate to say it because, again, that technical legality of it, the gray area, it's not going to be up to the companies. It's all the other people out in the world who have to kind of do that.
It is.
Well, what was that study that came out earlier this year from, what was her name? Kelsey Lewin? The whole, 87% of all video games are basically lost or unplayable in the current day.
Oh, God.
So,
How?
Because,
you're counting what then?
From computers that nobody has access to anymore, that were made specifically for those kind of computers. Stuff consoles that don't exist anymore, like the Magnavox Odyssey. Who's playing Magnavox games right now?
Right, good point.
Let me look. Well, I'll let you talk a minute while I find the exact numbers on that.
Oh yeah, while I try to
Go through another Bowser's Castle. Yeah,
Bowser's Castle, the final level of Super Mario World. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, kind of.
I don't know why I decided to boot this, actually.
Yes, the Video Game History Foundation. Here we go. 87% missing. The disappearance of classic video games. So this is coming from, not only, just video games, but media in general as well.
That I understand, yeah. But the thing is, video games might be even harder because the platform in which that software needs to be preserved is just kind of going away.
There has never really been, I don't think, in terms of, media, anything quite like video games, in the way that it's so intrinsically tied to technology that makes it such a unique thing for, to make it hard for companies or for people in general just to be able to continue to play or experience something. Because say if I wanted to watch the old silent film, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, I can look it up online, or I can buy a DVD and I can just put it into a machine and play it. Any DVD machine, any computer, anywhere. I can just play it and watch it. Which is a good movie, by the way. Or say if I wanted to get myself a copy of, Pride and Prejudice. Sure. I can go to the library, I can borrow it and read it. Right. I can go to Barnes & Noble and buy my own copy.
Now, some video games can be purchased from, rented from a library.
Right, but how many libraries are going to have something like Dizzy's Adventure for the old, BBC Micro or something? You know what I'm saying?
As if they would even have the system for you to play it, or nor would you.
Right. But you know what I'm saying, though? It's that's what it's coming down to. Another point I want to make with subscription services as well. It's
there's differences in versions. Sometimes there's lost editions of games.
Yep, and also, too, it's well, what are they going to offer on the service that's actually going to get consumers interested? It's not going to be Disney's Adventure on the BBC Micro, you know?
No.
It's just going to be Super Mario World, A Link to the Past.
It's going to be the big stuff.
Yes.
But even that, what happens to games that were only temporarily existing on a mobile platform?
Right.
And people could actually put real money into them. And then even if you manage to emulate them, what about something like Witcher Monster Slayer, which was a fantastic game. I really loved it. Some people put a lot of money into that game.
Never getting it back.
No, it doesn't exist anymore. That game doesn't exist.
The way it originally released?
No, and even if you manage to emulate it, it was one of those Pokemon Go likes that manages to have a running server that will choose GPS locations for where monsters will spawn, where quests will continue. So even if you emulated it, those servers don't run, the game is gone.
Yeah, there's no way to do that, unfortunately, and it's just... and that's just it. It's like it's so complex to try to preserve and to like even down. Like honestly, you asked me to try to program a game and to be able to preserve it. I couldn't tell you.
It's a constant upkeep, and there's way more games than there are people, and they're releasing too quickly anymore.
Yeah, and I'm lucky enough to be able to like figure out how to get RetroArch and other emulators running. You know, I've been able to figure a lot of that stuff out on my own, and you know how those things work. But you know, this kind of stuff is literal black magic to me. I couldn't tell you how to do any of this. So, you know, there are people out there smarter than me who are able to preserve this sort of stuff. So that way, you know, where companies can't, other people will preserve. But you know what I mean, though? It's like, again, it's all these gives and takes, and you have to take all this into account. I know that I'm never going to be able to play everything. But I at least want the chance. The ability.
Yeah. It's like, I feel good having... on my modded 3DS, the entire Atari library. I'm never gonna play the entire Atari library.
There's so many shovelware games on the Atari.
There's so much garbage on that. The crash of '83 happened because of this. But I still like knowing that it's preserved there.
Yeah, I can play a cool little version of Missile Command on that.
There are still
That's really cool.
There's some gems on there.
Yeah.
And they're gone forever if you otherwise wouldn't have the chance. So, you know, say like I would have never discovered Dragon Stomper. An interesting RPG
that
you can play on the Atari. Yeah, and I only found out about it by doing some research for videos, just learning more about games and going, that exists, I want to try that. And then I'm able to go out of my way and do so, even though you can't go buy an Atari. You can't go buy Dragon Stomper. What are you gonna know? You can effectively pay some extremely expensive person online who's charging an arm and a leg for their old, possibly dysfunctional Atari system, and then maybe you'll find it would go on forever. Physical media does degrade too, so
it can. It's kind of rare, and especially, but as long as you're doing the minimum to like upkeep it, it'll keep for a while. And I know this
at least for your lifetime.
Yeah, and I know this episode has kind of been a little all over the place, but this is also intertwined.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know we kind of had a 4-hour episode about emulation, and this does kind of, it ties into it as well, but the real problem here is that we're living in an age where the games that we really love, and maybe if you're a younger generation and let's just say you're super nostalgic to the Nintendo Wii or the GameCube, and that's what was coming out when you were a kid. Let's just say that in another 10 years, those are retro games and they're gone forever, as they really technically are right now. But say you can't even go to yard sales and find these things for a few dollars. You have to pay some expensive service, and you'll have to only play a few Nintendo Wii games. You're not going to be able to play The Last Story, because that didn't get added onto the NSO version of the time. Instead, you can only play the Mario Kart game with the awkward controls. And you can play, probably can't even play Galaxy because Nintendo wants to sell that to you.
Now, also, too, say if you grew up with the 360 and PS3 as your first consoles, what about updates for broken games at launch?
Right, and that's another huge problem. What version of a game are you going to be getting?
Right, because for some reason, like, on the PlayStation Classic, because I forgot that was a thing until I got my own version, when Sony was trying to put that out at first, they're like, okay, this is cool. Let's get in on this whole micro console thing that everyone's doing. And I was on board.
It'd be great if they made it too. Boy, it would cost twice as much, but I would be so happy if they made it too.
However, when it came to the lineup, you look at some of these games and you're like, those are odd choices, okay. But then,
where's Crash Bandicoot? Where's Spyro the Dragon?
But then on top of that...
Where's Xenogears?
On top of the weird choices, the versions we got were so weird. Because for the North American version, we also got the European PAL versions of some games. Which I'm like, I don't live in Europe.
It doesn't even run at the right speeds. It's just like... what.
And so that's what you kind of get with subscription services and whatever the companies are able to give you.
You don't assume that these companies are all caring about the media as much as you do.
No, they are in it for the money. It always is for the money.
Almost always. Yeah. It's very rare when they're not. And typically the only companies that do really care are, unfortunately, the smaller ones.
Yeah, like, I don't want to say Devolver Digital is small because it's pretty big, but...
Like WayForward as well. Like, WayForward clearly loves a lot of old games. They're continuously remaking and working on new stuff. They're working on the new Contra.
They're working on the new Contra, and they're also porting Clock Tower. The original Clock Tower that we never got.
Sort of porting. They're making a lot of new stuff for it, too.
They're revamping the entire engine. They're adding a new anime opening and...
We do not have enough WayForwards in this industry. That's the problem.
That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, it's like just Limited Run Games is also doing another important thing of like working on making physical prints for games that otherwise couldn't afford it.
Yeah, granted, I don't agree with it being always so limited in some cases.
It's the way that they have to run their... It's the way they have to run their business.
At least it's an option. Yeah. If you can beat everyone who's basically got their bots ready to download or to buy the next game from a Limited Run.
We already made a Scalpers episode, but boy, is it driving me crazy. Because even just recently, in the new Nintendo Direct, they announced 5 new amiibos that were suddenly for sale. Guess what happened to, if you logged on to Best Buy's website, it crashed. Kim and I were both frantically on our phones trying to log in and purchase the Xenoblade pair at the same time.
Oh, Noah and Mio.
Only she was able to get through, and we weren't able to put our gift card that we had for Best Buy in at the time.
Oh my god.
That's how frantic this was. Mine didn't even load. Mine was saying that my password was wrong, and it absolutely wasn't. It's because the site was crashing, and then I told it to send me an email of the password reset and all that stuff.
The end.
Was also crashing. Nothing worked, and I never got those emails.
Yeah, right.
So people, they don't realize that bots are taking over this industry, and it is changing a lot of this stuff. And then, of course, because bots exist, if this Unity deal goes through, and because of the way that models work, any company can be run into the ground. And it really could be a second crash if it really does happen. Because everyone will go out of business.
Yeah, if this whole Unity goes through, who's to say that Epic suddenly won't say, oh yeah, we changed our minds. We're going to go ahead and charge a tax for any game that's used Unreal. Or the new Unreal 5 engine or whatever. You know, it's that precedent.
That's intense damage to the industry. That basically now nobody wants to use Unity, which previously was an approachable place for developers to learn how to make video games. And same for Unreal. Now, one, I guess, good thing to come out of this, I have seen lots of other game engine studios advertising, hey, by the way, our engine is free, and right now we are working on patches and programs that will automatically convert your game from Unity to ours. So if everyone's jumping ship, here's the way to do it. If the best thing that can happen out of this, best case scenario, the transition is seamless for everyone, and Unity goes out of business. Or at least learns their lesson, because this is despicable, and it should never happen. We're going to play the best video game ever.
I won't argue. This is a really good one.
It's Super Metroid.
To try to put things as succinctly as I can on my end, there's good in subscription services, but always kind of be aware, be a savvy consumer, I think is the big message that I want to get across. There's a lot of good, but there's a lot of downsides. It's hard to be a savvy consumer, because sometimes, like, say you love lots of retro games, like myself, and I would say, oh, I want to play Super Metroid, and I want to have access to it on the go. But at the same time, if I do so, and I continue playing it on here, likewise, and I want to play other
games on the Super Nintendo because I want to play an English version of Shin Megami Tensei because I love that series.
Yes, exactly.
And by getting a chance to play it and discover that game, I can only do it through emulation. So now I'm limited. Like, do I purely just emulate this game now, or do my solution was to take the game and put it onto a modded Super Nintendo Classic, because it was the closest that I could ever really get to this.
Exactly, and that's the problem. Yeah, it is hard to be a savvy consumer, because like I said, prices and stuff can just change at a moment's notice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned earlier. It's difficult. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of getting a little bit more difficult every day almost, it feels. And again, I don't want this to be a downer episode, because honestly, like I said, we live in like a really interesting and cool time in video games, where we have the ability to have such unrestricted access to media like this, but you have to almost like fight tooth and nail sometimes, or just go against,
your own instincts.
Yeah, in order to be able to at least do something with it.
Yeah.
And how sucky is that? It's like, I just want to play,
the best game ever.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, one other thing I thought about for the whole Unity thing. What about What about fan games? Because how the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall was remade in Unity not that long ago?
Yeah,
And they fixed that game up and made it so much better.
Oh, no.
They're not charging for it because it's not their game. But are they going to be the one charged, though, for the runtime
Exactly.
installs?
Well, then the game will suddenly have a price tag. Or it will have to have a price tag because it's going to put them out of business for making it for free. Yep. Who's going to pay that bill?
Bethesda ain't going to do it. They didn't make it.
Exactly.
And that guy's going to have... And those people are going to have to pay it somehow, or someone is, because now it's online. It's been so widely dispersed, they can't get rid of it at this point. So that's just the issue. Yeah, what about delisted games that get pirated?
Shouldn't be their responsibility.
It's not. Yeah, it's just putting the onus on the people who have been wronged and not providing the service to actually, fix things up for them. So yeah, just try to be as savvy as you possibly can. Just know that sometimes things aren't going to work out. And just don't be afraid to move on and change the way you do things, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you exclusively just have an Xbox for Xbox Game Pass, and they suddenly do something scummy, raise the prices, they change what you thought you were purchasing.
Exactly, yes.
Then we just have to move on. Things change.
I mean, anything you wanted to add to that? Because that's about all I have to say right now. Like, there's a lot of good, but there's also so much bad that you just kind of have to...
I've always been afraid of what is going to happen. It's getting worse. Like, we always joked about saying, like, oh, EA and Activision are just doing their thing in the corner. And luckily for me, like, I don't really care about the FIFA games. I don't care about Star Wars games.
Yeah.
It's not, like, hurting me directly. But as soon as you say, okay, everything that runs in this engine, which you would be shocked how many things do, what am I supposed to do now when a quarter of the industry, maybe more, will just vanish overnight?
Yep, we might not be able to keep Cult of the Lamb if we don't if this goes through. I don't know. It's just
well, not just Cult of the Lamb. See,
everything
else. If it actually goes through, do you really think any of these other companies are going to keep their stuff active?
No, they can't.
Of course not.
No. So it's kind of terrifying in a way.
It really is.
Because this isn't just even video games too. This is a lot of industries. I made a joke with Alex earlier about cars, but BMW, I think, was doing that whole thing where you had to pay a subscription service to just get heated car seats, even though that's a physical feature in your car.
It makes no sense.
But because, cars have computers built into them now at this point.
They can track you. Yeah, and they can put in all sorts of, basically like a mobile service like you would pay for your phone.
Very
except
much so.
They are intentionally paying for it themselves because they know that it's just there to get you.
Exactly.
That's despicable, man.
And that's for a physical thing. That's not even a digital thing.
I don't know, man. I don't...
Look, I've only got so much money and I've only got so much time in my life, just for pity's sake.
We all do.
But, yeah, so I mean...
But we still...
It's not all bad, like I said. There are multiple ways to do things. And again, people who care as much about this sort of stuff like we do, we're not the majority.
No.
And that's the problem. So unless if something radically happens,
we're also not
this,
wealthy enough to even make a difference.
Yeah. There are going to be a lot of people out there who the Xbox is the only thing they play on. They don't care about the FIFA thing. They'll pay for the new Dream Team mode or whatever that mode is called to get all the best players.
Dang it.
But, there are people out there who are trying to work to make a difference. And, there may not be a lot of people, but, it's like there are ways to go about things. Is what I'm saying. I'm trying to say, I guess. It's a great...
I want the option. I want to know what the answer is, because I don't even know, from here, what's going to happen?
Right, as it stands right now, there really isn't. So you just kind of have to make your own decisions as things happen. To quote Shakespeare, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times.
Yeah, I mean, we're not living in, a new Crash, but, we're, always on the precipice anymore of, being there. It's almost that bad.
Yeah, because video games are getting so expensive to make anymore with inflation on the rise and with the complexity not only of, game engines and the way that architecture works, and also the fact that, manpower is limited. So if you want those 60 frames per second 4K visuals, you're either the company's going to have to pay massive amounts of money to its employees for development and cost and all that, but also for time.
Yeah.
Because to be able to get that 60 frames per second, 4K visuals, that's an insane amount of work.
It is, and making sure that it's going to work on a bunch of different platforms.
Yeah.
We were even going to have an episode previously that was specifically just talking about what it takes to develop a video game anymore, as opposed to what it used to in the past. And now, the industry is changing so quickly. Yeah. How do we even have these discussions?
I don't know.
Because what is the answer? Who knows what it actually costs anymore? How many people does it really take? When you have a small team like Team Cherry who's trying to make Hollow Knight Silk Song for the entire world that is eagerly awaiting it. Yep. What the heck are we supposed to do?
A couple of games I just recently found out about and got on Switch physically are the Alwa games, Alwa's Awakening and Legacy. It's a small team of only 3 people as well, like Team Cherry.
Team Cherry.
And it's okay, they can make these cool little retro Metroid-inspired games, but then what about someone like, I don't know, Sabotage, who had a lot more people to help work on the new Sea of Stars, or even Square with Team Luminous, who made Forspoken. It's that took a lot of manpower to make for what we got. So it's just I just don't know. It's just so weird.
Kickstarter has been such a crutch lately for smaller teams to be able to make something, and their success hinges on basically Google search engine optimization, whether Kickstarter is going to promote it or not. Sometimes there's really cool stuff that just goes completely unnoticed.
A game I am so looking forward to, Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. I would have had no idea. That game never would have been made without Kickstarter.
Right.
And because, no one was making a game like
Same for The Messenger, Sea of Stars, Hollow Knight, Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Shovel Knight.
Well, Silk Song, I think, is not using Kickstarter, because we would have seen more information.
Shovel Knight
Kickstarter. Yes. Basically, all the big stuff. I think Undertale as well.
Yes. I believe so.
It's an
Pillars
enormous...
of Eternity.
Right. It's almost like you have to use it. You don't have a choice. Because what else do you... in, books or film industry, you go to a publisher, you pitch what you have. It's like...
Yeah.
These should be very similar. These are art media that is made for mass distribution for consumers. And this is digital media. It should be easier.
Yeah.
But it's, for some reason, this in particular seems to be singled out, and maybe it's just run by the wrong people.
It's run by business people. That's the problem.
Yeah, man, I don't want to keep going back to this, but boy, we lost Satoru Iwata too soon, because that man, if he were still with us, I think Nintendo would be a very different company in terms of how it approaches this business aspect of things.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Finally back into combat here. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, you know what?
This is one of the best moments in games, I think.
And it really is. And if we can stall our way through the end of this episode to watch the end of this, that'll be the best ending, Zach.
Well,
we need to have some... There has to be some optimistic ending
There is, and that's what I'm trying to get to, is that, like I said, we live in an age where media is so readily accessible.
Yes.
Even if it's not in the best way from, companies like Netflix or, Sony or
Netflix
whatever.
raising their prices,
Yes.
Hulu charging an arm and a leg for their Disney expansions.
But because of subscriptions and stuff, not only do we have the ability to get a lot more and interesting takes on things, but the fact that it's
like the model of the subscription too. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. Right now, we've been playing this entire this whole episode, it feels that long, exclusively with online streaming abilities. And it's great.
Right.
You right now have the ability to play one of the best games ever made.
Exactly.
The best game ever made.
And so, it's like, that is the biggest thing I can say, is that there is no other time in, like, video game history where we have had such unfettered access and the ability to be able to go in, look up fan creations and see what fans have been able to make, what kind of options the indie scene has been able to give us, be able to revisit classics we never got in the States through translations and
people
emulation.
are doing wonderful work with translating old stuff that we never saw.
Big
I would have
publishers.
never played The Frog from the Bell Tolls, and that's one of my favorite video games ever.
Yes, big publishers giving smaller indie studios a chance to be able to put their stuff out there that we never would have been able to see on our own, because the way that the world works and search optimization, like you said, with Google. So it's like, go out there, explore. Don't be, I guess the whole optimistic thing is, don't feel like you have to be locked down to a specific platform because you feel beholden to it because you've paid so much for it. I fell into that for a while.
I do know lots of
Nintendo
other
and
countries'
stuff,
games and their services cost quite a bit more, or it makes the service much more appealing because physical games cost an obscene amount.
Yes, if you can, go ahead and pay for what you can. That still support who you can and what you can. Enjoy what you can. You're never going to be able to play everything anyway.
And unfortunately, in this day and age, emulation is becoming more and more appealing because it has more and more stuff. And I don't want to tangent into that entire episode. We've already covered this, but
shameless plug.
Don't feel like that's the way out. And
no,
it never,
it's not.
It really shouldn't be. I want to make sure. No, we need to support these people.
It's an option.
Yeah, there is still a plethora of amazing, great games that we can play.
Exactly. You gonna save the animals?
Okay, I'll save the animals.
All right, save the animals. We're not saving frames. We're not speedrunning this today.
No.
But yeah, so it's like, just do what you can. Is all I'm saying. It's like, that's just it. You have the freedom to be able to do that. And I guess that's another big thing too. So it's like, that's my takeaway from this. Don't feel beholden to the companies. They don't care about you. Be beholden to your life. Enjoy life and what you want to experience.
If you really love the original Fire Emblem game and you want to play that, well, you know what? If it's taken offline, just download it somewhere.
Yep, and
that's what it takes for you to play it. Because if the company isn't offering it to you to purchase whatsoever, and this was kind of our agreement of the emulation thing.
Yes.
You just have to do what you can.
Yeah, if you missed out or if you didn't know that Nintendo was doing just a limited run of a digital version of a classic game, you can't buy it anymore, then okay, I missed out.
The best you can do is support modern stuff. Like I cannot right now single-handedly purchase Super Metroid. I can only play this on NSO right now.
Yeah.
At this moment in time, I cannot go to any store and buy this.
And if I wanted to get Super Metroid, Nintendo wouldn't profit from it if I got a Super Nintendo cartridge off of some schmuck off of line,
Of course not. No, and you'd be paying an obscene amount for that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So
this industry's a mess. I'm just hoping that things will work out soon because the reason we wanted to do this episode now is because at the very least, right now we have some big stuff that's happening in the industry that may be shifting things drastically, though I certainly hope not. And the best thing that can happen out of this, as I said before, is the people who I think are ruining this industry drop out of it. Yeah. They realize that they've run a company into the ground. We need someone to make that multi-billion-dollar debacle mistake and destroy themselves for the greater good of the rest of the industry.
Yeah, I don't know. I just would hate to see so many other people put out of work for that, but
I know.
But so many companies are laying so many people off anyway.
I know, but
I don't know. It's hard.
It's we're choosing between evils. Like I just said, like the best case scenario for the industry is for a catastrophic failure to happen. Because otherwise, this is what we're going to live in, and this is going to be the consistent state of what video games are. And I'm not happy with that world. I don't know if you guys are. I mean, sure, it's great that we have access to NSO.
Absolutely.
I can play this old stuff.
Yeah.
But like I said, Shin Megami Tensei isn't here, and I love that game. There's tons of things that you will never have, and it's never going to be perfect. I know that, but if people are out there making it for free, we have to find some sort of middle ground. I feel like a video game library, even if you have to rent things. Make new rule schematics. You know, we live in a digital age. Libraries were created for physical media.
I'd almost say almost like a digital Library of Congress just for video games almost would be kind of cool. Because they've done that with movies, and they don't have to. Well, I don't
think
really
they have
know.
taken a couple video games in.
Have they?
I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they did. I'm not positive on that. We'll have to fact check ourselves.
But like something more concrete, like an actual, just specific.
Yeah, and not just like
thing.
and not just like physical cartridges too. Like they actually need to have digital backups of this software.
Right.
And this that ties into another huge episode we did complaining about NFTs and people trying to sell digital stuff without actually selling it. And I think that's the real problem that is going on in the digital age right now. People are trying to figure out how to sell something that doesn't exist. Or selling something without giving you anything.
Yeah, it's almost like a very hyper-capitalist way of looking at things.
But that's what NSO is. And now I enjoy this product. At least it's an actual product and not an NFT of an ugly monkey picture. But I can enjoy this in its own right.
I'm now imagining like a Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Like each person who gets NSO has their own ugly monkey picture.
Like someone has the ugly monkey Samus picture with the crappy
looking
helmet.
Don't! No! You're disgusting, Zach.
I never said I wasn't.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, but you know, it's kind of I don't really have a solution. It's kind of up to you. Like I said, there's the freedom out there. Do what you can to support people.
Yeah.
And if they won't give you the service, I don't know. There's other ways to go about it. So
99%.
Oh, you guys guess you gotta play this game again.
I guess I do.
Oh, shucks.
Well, shucks. I better renew my NSO subscription.
Oh, man. Well, for a month, hey, $4 is $4.
Dude, that was best ending 99% under 2 hours. Come on! What was the one I missed? Seriously?
You might have missed a missile somewhere.
Somewhere. Well, whatever. You know, and that's really all this is. It's just finding a way to tolerate the industry and not so much find the enjoyment in it.
Yeah, I kind of find that discourse is so, tribal when it comes to this right now. It's either
like people are hanging on to that stupid console wars thing, like it's about teams, and it's not because once PlayStation does something scummy that Xbox is excused for doing something horrible as well.
No.
Same for Nintendo. Like they're all doing bad stuff. It's almost like a race to the bottom to see what they can get away with.
It's like you're either an idiot for supporting companies, or you're an idiot because you're not supporting the companies,
or you're a thief for just emulating stuff instead and going out of their way to undermine them.
There's no nuance, but unfortunately this is such a nuanced topic.
It is.
And this is for a hobby that I love, that I've loved since I was in elementary school, and it just pains me to see where things are going. But like I said, in anything in life, you just kind of have to roll with the punches and just do what you can.
Yeah, it's not like we can have any real say over what these multi-billion-dollar companies are going to do. We really are just along for the ride, and you guys are too.
Complaining only gets you so far, but it does help sometimes. I will say. So anyway,
that is all we have for this episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of HITBOX. If you enjoy the show, you can help us keep it alive by supporting us on Patreon with the links in the show notes in this video's description. And for those of you on YouTube, remember to like the video and subscribe for more, and be sure to let us know what you thought of the show and what other topics you would like to hear us cover in the future. And special thanks to all of our amazing Patreon members. Good luck on your 100% under 2-hour Metroid run, guys. Oh my god, I feel like an idiot. See ya.
See ya.